welcome to the near coming. So we are here to in between, yeah. So we're going to complete the dynamics energetic of 2023, step into and set the powers of force necessary for you to feel that you are here with the energy you need to be with, doing your whatever you've come to do. So let's start with a nice big breath in the heart. Let's open and let's ground. Another big breath. And release. One more time. Nice big breath. Open. Feel it all the way down the base of your spine as you let the air in and release. So the ending here of 2023 leaves us a fair amount of unfinished business. And so what I'd like to start out with here is the Ho'opono prayer, the asking of forgiveness for anything we have harmed, any disruption that we have created that basically has left us with unfinished or holes in our bucket or a karma that we really wouldn't want to be collecting on the other side. It's like we hope the bill payer doesn't come, kind of thing, or the bill receiver. So let's just take a nice big breath and give yourself permission to just take whatever needs forgiveness in your life. And you don't even have to name it at this point. It will come later. Just allow yourself to hold in your hand the aspects of what is incomplete or unfinished in your world, and give yourself permission to have a sense that to allow a space for whatever it is that is still on your plate. Let's ask for it to purify. So often in entering into a new space, the Ho'oponopono prayer is meant for building a sanctification, creating a purity before we enter into the temple, a space that allows us to recognize that we're not carrying energetics that we wouldn't want to be energizing in our life anymore. So it's a clearing ground. So we're holding this incompletes, these aspects of our nature that have created harm, if you will, or that confusion, misunderstandings. And as we hold them, let's ask them to purify. And allow this aspect of what we have been holding, that we're doing this to change our relationship to this so that as we enter into the new year, we don't have to keep being served with the same habitual responses and reactions. So that I often take this element of incomplete that is in my hands and place it on the altar. Or I give it out to my outside world, out a window, to the level of releasing and letting go of what is no longer serving. So within this prayer, the powers of purification allow us to identify any situation where we realize that we could do better, or places that we hid from our own nature and was disrespectful into our own being. So we ask for forgiveness, the ability to release and to let go. That often this level of release, if we're sincere, it changes the dynamic of what we have to learn. So we offer a place in us often when we are in a situation where we have made mistakes or we have not really quite known how to deal with it, right? We wouldn't be asking for forgiveness unless somehow it wasn't quite ever right yet. So that the ability to give again, to be a principle that is for giving, meaning the energy can expand and give again. So what that tells us is when you sit in grievance or hurt or wrongdoing, you're in a closed energy field. It might be surrounded by a self-righteousness. It might be surrounded by a feeling of being victimized, stabbed by someone that you felt really was going to serve you and in some ways betrayed you. You've got many a story that we learned from here. That in this strength of letting go, it gives us permission to bring a new light. In other words, I can open now from a place that might be sharp or hard. I can open to a place that allows more kindness. Take a nice breath. I'm going to run the ritual through me. I will be expecting you to be with me with your own content and connection as you identify, as you move with this. If you're able to move it past just an interesting little exercise that Nancy's doing and into a place where you can actually feel the energetic currents and connection, it will lift us to another level as you enter into the matrix of 24. So I have a tendency to get hard when I feel like I am right and I know best. And this hardness will come over me in a way that I become obsessed with my own rightness and the need to tell or to share or to even interrupt and make sure they get what it is that I think it needs to be. Now, when I'm in this hardness and when I'm in this kind of closed place, I don't know that I'm closed and I don't know that I am doing harm. I don't know I'm railroading over another person and basically saying that who they are doesn't really matter right now because I'm the one that's figuring this one out. So that this hardness stops me from being able to love, being able to appreciate, being able to connect. So that as I started waking up to this, in the beginning, I didn't. I figured the world made me like this, and that was just how it was going to be, and everyone would just have to deal with it. It was a very closed system that I lived in. As it started to crack, like these little earthquakes that happen, and they start cracking, and you start recognizing that your tone of voice or what the room felt like when you walked in here, and now what it feels like when you have done your deal. that what I had to come to was to begin to acknowledge, and the forgiveness had to come to me and to the parts of myself that I blamed for my grievances. It wasn't a whole truth because it was still totally self-centered in my own viewpoint, but it had to come softer in order for me to align to my new framework of where I wanted to go. So I wanted kindness. I want love. I want to have a world that's filled with creativity, aliveness, and a deep appreciation of being together. That's the world I want. The world that I created was hard and heavy and very strongly needing to be me in control as the righteous bitch. That's what I considered myself to be in that moment. So when I'm calling for Ho'oponopono, I'm asking for this hardness to dissolve. And I know where I want to go. I know the world and the environment that I want to be in, so that my waking up time got a little shorter and a little shorter and a little shorter, because it became more and more uncomfortable to be in this closed, heavy dictum of self-righteousness. So the power of the Ho'oponopono prayer for me was to ask to purify in a way that would allow me to experience my soul, my essence, to come back to the real reason I'm here on this planet, to experience these deeper, very precious states of awareness that live within me. And so my purification was to come back to that pure core goodness. My relationship then to my protections, the places that would keep me bonded or held in this closed protective place, I had to find a means in asking for forgiveness to realize that the forgiving was allowing me to give to the parts of myself that were cold and hard and broken. So it wasn't a matter of just getting rid of, it was a matter of utilizing the power of my closed nature to come to a new position of clarity. So I started giving to this hardness. I listened to it when it would come, but I didn't believe the stories that it had to say. Became a little more disciplined to stop shooting arrows into others and making them responsible for why I was the way I was. Because I realized that in some strange way, I was grounding my energy through my blame, my resentment, my pride, which only reinforced that dynamic wall. So first, purification to come back to the pure core goodness. That when my energy was closed, it was like sitting in an empty room. I took it to the ocean, took it to the forest. I took it to my sleep time for this strength to build in me so that I could awaken to something new, something that I could feel was growing in me very powerfully, but that in my closed energetic, I had no access to. What I had to accept when I was in my forgiveness prayers is that I didn't trust that there was this beautiful, wonderful, warm world out there that was just, wait, I didn't trust that light existed when I was closed. If it did, I usually would be sarcastic or make fun of it. That this need to protect. So, in the element of purification and the willingness to find the courage in my heart to be wrong, the courage in my heart to have an earthquake that breaks this up, and a space to come back to that allowed me to not know what the nature of the universe was going to be. In my closed nature, I am safe and secure because the movie never changes. In my open element of universe, I have very little to move with what it is or how I'm going to see. I've grown into myself more. I have more movement, and that's what we're going to talk about here tonight, is this ability for you to, as you have released the swollen old protections and done your Ho'oponopono, to be able to release and let go of what is no longer working. That if you reach for something to fill you up that has become an addiction, it will just become more obvious that it doesn't work. You're not getting fuller. You're just getting sicker. So this place that we come to as we complete with this sense of our Ho'oponopono prayer that acknowledge we love, we acknowledge we want to live within a perception of love, because there really isn't much more to reach to than that. So that in the power of Ho'oponopono, we acknowledge the purity and sacred ground. We ask to enter into the inner chambers of our own beingness, our light. We release anything that would be a defilement. We're willing to pay our penalties, fulfill the karmas, give back whatever is necessary and needed in this time, so that as we come to enter into this next chapter, we're clean and we're ready to go. So let's take a brief breath. Appreciate your sincerity, your willingness to find that deeper open. That when we do ritual and prayer, joining together in clarity of intentions, it's kind of like a dipping of a candle. It leaves another layer of consciousness in us that allowed for me to not fall asleep quite so long, not to be caught up in my own self-righteousness. So that when I came to the sense of understanding the price I paid for this hardness and the closing that I paid for this, it's just not worth it. So we came here to welcome the new year. I was often, especially when I was booked in as the Nancy the Psychic, to be called to various radio shows to ask to do predictions. And I did my little prediction, pretty much read it for what I saw it to be. And the moderator looked at me and says, "Well, that just sounds like this last year." And I said, "Yeah, pretty much." And there was a sense that they were looking for some kind of big news, something or another that was going to come and be there. And it basically had me give up predicting. That was the end of it, that one with me, because I recognized it was too general, too broad, too much. What we can do here that will be skillful, because probably anything I tell you about what would be unfolding in this year will probably be something that you'd forget by March anyway. So we'll feed it to you as we go along. That the dynamic of where we're standing now is that everything is moving into obvious imbalance. That the extremes, what is Mother doing in her nature calls? Trying to find balance. What is it that we are here to do to help this process? Is to maintain balance. So that when we come to who are you and what do you want to experience or express in this coming year, the answer to that is probably more important than the qualities or influences that you're going to deal with as you see more and more this play of imbalance. And to recognize that some things that try to come to balance something tip the scales. So it will always be looking to this. So that one of the means that I thought in a Vedic astrology that I was speaking about, they talked about what they call a partial dissolution. And I think dissolution is a good word for this coming year. That we would acknowledge that if I'm not able to dissolve this protective cap that I kept in my being, if I can't dissolve it, then my relationship to the world is going to get thicker. Meaning that there will be less light, less clarity, less connection. And we will see that. At one point, I think it was 86, my sponsor asked Aurora to give a prophecy. Now, prophecies are not all that popular anymore. We come with them now and again. And so I wasn't really sure, but I thought, well, it's important to him. We can do this. And so I asked, could we have a prophecy here? And the prophecy was, you've heard it before, the light will follow the light, and the dark will eat itself up. The light will follow the light, and the dark will eat itself up. I don't know about you, but in any places where I've stayed encased into something that was basically for protection and have no life-giving qualities to it, I eventually would end up getting sick. And I've heard that from so many people where they would come to me having to really live through really difficult sicknesses and acknowledge that they were grateful. They were grateful because he said, it made me wake up. I would not be who I am. I would not have the awareness, the gratefulness that I hold right now if it hadn't been for that difficult time. So we're climbing mountains. We will see mountains and valleys as we move through this year. The question is to you is, how will you greet these challenges? How will you greet these shifts, these earthquakes, these imbalances in your own nature? What do we need to put in your backpack in order for you to feel that you're making the most out of whatever it is that's in front of you? So we have our 1, 2, 3. Let's start there just to get a sense of where it is that you would want to be putting your attention. So my number ones. Number one, I want to encourage you to build your strength. If you're hobbling along, don't just put up with it. find the support, the assistance that you need to get stronger, that would give you whatever it is in resource. And we're talking physical strength, emotional strength, dynamic psychic awareness. How long can I hold a clear energy field, right? What is the strength that allows me to do that? The strength of your nervous system. Everything for you, number one, is about building this dynamic power in your nature and getting used to reaching to it and having it so that whatever challenge comes your way becomes your workout for the day. Whatever that you are reaching to in the sense that shows you a level of weakness. And again, this applies for all of us, but some of us we have to pay a little extra attention to. We get a little more benefit from it. But this would go for all of us. We have to concentrate on getting stronger and being able to recognize that strength is not hardness. Strength isn't something that builds a wall against something else. It's more of an inner power of awareness that gives us permission to keep finding that deeper place inside. That if you've gone through injury or illness, your strength has to go inward in order to help you heal, so that it moves into a place that leaves parts of you maybe weaker or more deficient. If that has happened and you want to keep playing, you want to keep being here, then again, find inspirational ways to keep building this strength. One of the reasons why I live in a house of stairs was from something that I saw. I was in Peru and there was a woman, she's probably about 80 years old when I looked at her. She had some age on her and I could feel that. And she was carrying a big load on her head, walking up a hill. And I looked at her and I went, she is stronger than me. Now, she don't go to the gym. She was in an environment for her to live. She had to maintain her strength and awareness. And I looked at that and I went, you know what? I need to put myself in position where I am forced to stay in shape. And so I live in a house of stairs. That this dynamic aspect of building is something that you would say, okay, what is it that I would need to do? Do we need to move more? Do we need to eat better? Whatever it is, you know what it is. And then again, when we know it, that's step one. And then we want to empowerment to it. And that's what this time is for. My number twos, develop your creative expression. Develop your creativity. Joseph Campbell was talking about being here. It's like during the Great Depression, he went to California. He was so enthralled with what he was studying and learning. He said everything else that was happening around him, he said it didn't really affect him in a negative way because his aliveness and his connection in the sense of what he was learning in the archetypes and in this development of the psyche was so exciting to him that it was like the outside world and the difficulties that it had, he would do what he needed to do to assist and to help. But he used his creative power for his entertainment, for his aliveness. I was listening on NPR and they were interviewing a man who is in the Philharmonic Symphony in Lviv. And so it's in the Ukraine. It's a city quite far from Kiev. Every week they play the symphony. And they said the bomb shelters are going, and that it's like you're listening for sirens and things like that. He said it's not like they aren't under attack and aware of it, but they don't give up their music and they don't give up their song. And they acknowledge the importance of offering this creative solace. That often when we see difficulties that have happened, the artists step forward to create the, the statements of the suffering, the statements of the evolution. In fact, when I wanted to hear the history and the historian of the day, I look to what the artists are doing now. And what they are painting, what they are opening to, tells me that that's really the current that we are in now. So develop your creative expression. Let everything you do have an act of the creative within it to draw it up in you. What does creativity bring? Purpose and meaning, a deep sense of expression, a level of openness that allows us to discover parts of our nature that we didn't even know we had. I knew when COVID first started coming up and everything was going under the mask and closing down, I knew that I had to have something, some big thread to the work that I would share. And that's what actually created Free Fridays. We made them free because we needed to give back. I had no idea. We had a lot of learning curves along the way, but it became, again, a very deep thread for me of this learning power of creative, no matter what was going on in the ways that the governments were trying to control or save us on one end or the other. It was secondary to the powers of what we were here to contribute. So we have this building of strength that says, don't give up. Find ways to bring more life force into your body. Find ways that would allow you to open in much bigger means. In this opening in bigger means, find your expression, find your creativity, find that place of aliveness. And my number 3s, clarify your vision. There are those called the vision keepers, those that project out into the world to say, this is what is to come. That we have projections that come from every emotion. You can project from fear and see a very fearful world. You can project from anger, and it seems that the emotion recreates itself in it reflecting itself back to you. That in my closed bitchiness, people moved away from me. They could see it in my face. It was not a girl I want to hang out with. Right? There would just be a hardness that, and what I would see as they would move away is their hardness, their judgment, and blame the whole thing on them. So this power of your vision, what is the world that you want to experience? Isn't something that you're going to go find out there in some community or some space. It is something that you will generate in your own being. And it is your responsibility to make that happen. So that in doing this in the beginning, I started questioning my thoughts and my feelings because I thought it was interesting to see if this is what I'm feeling. What is that corresponding projection? And I'm thinking that that projection is what the world is. That's how we kind of play around here most of the time. We believe our own stories. So that what if I change that vision? What if I change that projection? What happens? I had a huge rejection complex, lived with it most of my life. At one point, it was suggested by a teacher of mine to go into the empty room where everybody was going to be sitting in maybe an hour or so and just go chair to chair to chair. This person loves me. This person loves me. This person loves me. Because what was I projecting? I was projecting that they came there basically to have attitude, to judge. I was talking to their judgment because that's what I was projecting. I was very strong there, wanting to basically prove myself against something that I had created in my vision that was there. It didn't mean that everybody felt that way. But you know what was interesting in this, my need to be right, I often would go find one or two people who would be capable of judging me in a strong way, and I'd spend a fair amount of time talking to them. So what do we hear unfolding is the sense that you can be in the driver's seat of your reality, at least to notice what you are doing and to notice the message that you're sending out in your being. And if it is that you want more love in your life, if that's what you want or that's what you need, then let's check and see your vision and your sense of connection. Let's see if it plays itself out. Now, why is this so important in 2024? Good question. But let's just roll this through one more time. We are building our strength. We're developing our creative expression. And we are clarifying our vision. Those are the tools that I want to give to you for this power of new beginning. So we did our Ho'opono prayer. We released and asked for forgiveness on any of the hardness or the dark spaces that we have generated in our life because we were hurting or we didn't know any better, or that's how mama did it, whatever it would be. So we released that, we held it in that space of the incompletes of our world and gave it back to the earth. We came then with the sense that rather than saying, well, here's the influences that you're going to deal with, we said, we gave you a few. We said, there's going to be a tremendous level of righting the imbalances. There's going to be a very strong sense of dissolution. It's going to be difficult in a lot of different ways. It's going to be like climbing a mountain. And so that when we come to it, we're not here to make this wonderful, joyous year. It will be for those who are joyous. It won't take that away. I'm not going to have a sad, bitter year. Why? Because I will use my tools in my backpack and I will make sure that I am generating the quality of the world I want to become. I will follow the light. I have confidence in myself in that. I guess I've been here long enough to know that I can count on me to do these things because there's nothing else to do. Why would I want to suffer? This dynamic as we come into this level of you within your world, I guess the next question we would have for you is, what is it that you do want to create here in this next round? What would you like more of in your world? What would you like to see unfold? What's not working anymore? So that this, if your life is out of balance, again, it's going to be a little more of earthquakey and it's going to be righting the imbalance until it comes into a new fundamental dynamic that we're not going to do it the old way anymore. We don't have enough resources for that. So that there will be this innovative and creative means of solving problems that that will allow us to take the sense of using what we have and bringing it into a new octave. All of these different dynamics will be there. They will come, but not for all. So the ability for you to set your levels, to set the way that you would want to come in and be in the world, it's of vital importance right now. So that you recognize the strength of who you are and what you've come to give. So let's take a nice big breath. After we have done our Ho'oponopono and we have our backpack pretty well ready to go, and you have already received at least 3 or 4 visions of what you know would be good to do, now you need the energy to want to do it. Jim was telling me a funny story. He goes to a workout gym place in his community, and he said the guys were saying, "Watch out!" He's like, "Next week, he's like the place is going to be just beaming with people because everyone will have made their New Year's resolutions and will be here and doing their exercise." And so Jim asked the man, "Well, how long will that last?" He said, "Oh, a couple weeks." He had known it from before. So that it's like out of this aspect, some of these levels of inspirations can be like little wonderful bubbles, rather short-lived. They're good. I'm happy for them. But this may be something bigger. So I'll ask you a few questions. What would you like to complete this year? What would you like to complete? What would you like to give? So for me, this aspect of completion is for me to complete with my closed nature, the part of me that becomes that hard shell of bigotry, to complete with that, so that I no longer have to live under a shell of closed, cut off nature, no matter what happens here. I don't want to go there. That what I want to be, what I have a sense that I'm reaching into, is I want to be a generator of love. I want to be able to have a sense that to every situation I step into, that there could be a part of me, large or small. It's not a job. It's just a sharing of my being that brings a little more life, a little more joy, a little more playfulness. I've always been gifted with an interesting sense of humor, that in walking into any situation, I can see the irony or the funny part of it. Sometimes I only get an inward tickle, a little giggle on the inside of, isn't that interesting? And on the other, often I can offer a perspective that brings a little bit more light, a little more understanding, a little more ease into the situation. That what I realize that I'm comfortable with now is letting whatever I am be available. It's been a lifetime of work. So this is the aspect of dynamic. It might be that maybe in your New Year's time, when you're sitting around getting ready for the New Year's, however you do that, that you let some of these questions, who am I? What have I come to give? What do I want to let go of? That you allow that to be shared within your community in a way that allows you to acknowledge out loud with people that you care about this bigger sense of bounty and new beginning. So I'd now like to do our empowerment prayers, so that our empowerment aspects will basically ask you to close your eyes for a moment, placing a golden circle of light around your world, a golden circle of light. We're going to set it for the whole year, for all the seasons, until it winds itself back, and here we'll be 1 year later. So take a nice big breath, feeling that golden circle of light. Sense the power of this light, warming, penetrating, and connecting as it grounds deep into the earth. And we notice in this cleansing, in this grounding, that anything that is no longer needed is released into the powers of the earth. Golden circle of light, surrounding your world, grounding anything that is no longer needed into the core of the earth. As this energetic spirals upward, it connects to the highest source of light that there is. Beyond our imagination, spiraling upward, this golden circle of light in its spiral, connecting to the highest source of light that there is. So we sense the spiral reaching deep into the earth, grounding anything that is no longer needed. We sense this spiral moving upward, touching into the highest source of light that there is. And as this core is connecting heaven and earth, this most potent of light, to the richness of our existence and our earth, we allow an inspiration that we can be fed, we can be nourished, we can be enlivened by the great spirit that we are. So we understand that we are all in different places. And so that the strength of this power may encourage you to rest, to heal, to make amends. This power may ask you to take on a creative expression bigger than you really thought was possible, knowing that you're supported every step of the way. All you need to do is reconnect into that source. We feel the strength of us collectively grounding a new vision of our time here on earth. That allows us to understand why we're here. To accept that we are moving from the uninitiated, that which is at the effect of everything around, to that which comes into a much bigger level of adepthood, of ownership, of the energetic forces and currents that we are given spiritually, energetically, to be able to weld these forces and these spirits towards good. That this will be in this aspect of imbalance as we are in our golden circle, a time of initiation, a time of welcoming a very new way of being here. We've called it new cycle, so that in this golden light, as we are grounding and allowing this to be, we are welcoming the power of the golden age, the strength of our illumination, the awakening within us that has the power and the glory to emanate the world we've always dreamed of. So we give thanks for the strength of this empowerment. We accept it for what it is. And we allow it to be. That often these kinds of initiations for me have taken years for them to settle completely into my bones. At the same time, the aspects of their expression and their sense of connection will bring a level of energy and aliveness, so that as we are all in different places, these forces of light coming here in 24 will be giving us to ourselves for this deeper level of awakening, that any obstacle that come in front of us becomes a strengthening agent for us to stay in this ability to direct our light. Nice big breath. We're just going to let it settle here for a moment. I just want to thank you for your willingness to lend your awareness to subtle influences, to recognize that it is your actions, your life force, your energy that will be the determinant as to the directions that we go to. That our stability will affect our communities, our neighborhoods. They will align to the forces of nature because we're listening, and things will get a little easier. And you'll get to discover the strength of who you are within this new level of balance and empowerment. So if we said, okay, so what are we saying about 2024? We're saying that you get to drive the car this year. You get to be the one that decides how you're going to take the road. You get to see if you feel that you're going to keep getting stuck in the ditch because you don't know how to drive. That you'll be able to say, okay, let me come to a new relationship to this. That the light will follow the light. and the dark will eat itself up. You decide on a daily basis whether you want to be consumed by the darknesses that are here or whether you're going to follow the light. To me, it's a no-brainer when we're talking about it like this, but you catch me in one of those little dark kind of cubby hole closed parts, and my God, I tell you, the strength that happens there, we learn to use that strength differently. And for all of that, I am grateful. So Errol and I want to wish you a very happy new year and a very wonderful empowerment year, that whatever dissolves in your world and in this dissolution time, that you use this to your benefit, you use your backpack skillfully, and you recognize that you'll probably be leading the way within your communities, within your heart and your energy more than you know. And there's nothing to be afraid of. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Love you. Happy New
Love
Year.
you. Happy New Year. Yes.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Nancy. Oh, I just love that. Just, I missed you all. This was so happy to see you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. That was just beautiful. Thank
Was
you.
so beautiful.
You are welcome. You all.
Thank you,
Thank
Nancy.
you.
Thank you,
Hello.
Nancy.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you, Nancy. I love our new dance routines.
Everybody.
Woohoo, yes. Good one.
How old is Makihiki Ho?
Thank you. Ooh.
Happy New Year, new empowerment to both of you, and you too, Jim. Love you. Love you all. Bye.
Aloha.
Aloha.